Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to do another map tour, but instead of focusing on individual cities and towns, we're going to talk about some ways to travel to and from New Hampshire. Now, if you look online at airports in New Hampshire, you're really going to see only two, one of which is Manchester-Boston Regional Airport, located right in southern Manchester, and then the other one, if we pan out here, is going to be over towards the coast in Portsmouth, and you'll see that right here. Now, you'll see it's labeled as Portsmouth International Airport, but if we go to their website, it's actually Pease International. Now, they're not really going to have any commercial flights. It's more just business travel, as you can see in these photos here. But I did want to mention it just because you will see it online. And another thing to point out is that if you're looking to move to New Hampshire and you're going to be living over in the Portsmouth area, you're probably going to get some air traffic. So if you're really opposed to having any noise, then I probably wouldn't recommend living in this particular region. But we're not going to go any further on that particular airport. Instead, we're going to go back over to Manchester-Boston Regional and talk a little bit more about this particular airport. Now, it's a great airport if you live in southern New Hampshire. It's just super, super convenient because virtually anywhere in southern New Hampshire, you can get there in, under half an hour realistically. And they do have parking there at the airport. They have garage parking. There used to be a long-term lot and then a short-term lot, but now I think the garage actually just has a combination of long and short-term. It can be a little bit pricey. If we go over to their website and we take a look at parking, we'll see what it actually costs. So let's scroll down here. And like all airports, it's not cheap. Now we're going to focus on the garage parking. As you can see here, $3 per half an hour up to the daily maximum of $14. So you're going to pay a flat rate of $14 per day. Now stay with me and I'm going to give you an alternative to that, which would, one, allow you to fly out of Boston, and two, allow you to park for free. So that would be best of both worlds. Now, they just announced something pretty big regarding Manchester-Boston Regional the other day. And if we go back to the homepage, you probably just saw it. Avelo Airlines announced that they're going to be offering a nonstop flight from Manchester to Raleigh, North Carolina. And now this is a brand new airline to the airport. Prior to this, Spirit was the most recent addition. And then before that, there was I think it was around a 15-year period of time, they saw no new airlines. So this is huge for the airport. This flight doesn't start until June 21st. Now, if it does do well and there's a lot of demand, they might add more routes, which would be really, really awesome, because I know that Manchester is looking to have more West Coast destinations. As of right now, it's a lot of East Coast and then down south. So if they had some more direct flights out to California, Arizona, even Las Vegas, that would be really, really nice. And I know a lot of New Hampshire residents would love that. Now, let's take a look at what airlines are currently flying in and out of Manchester. Now, one thing I'll note is that despite being a smaller regional airport, they have a pretty good selection. I've been to many airports before that are smaller. They might only have one or two airlines to choose from. And this makes it really difficult with pricing because there's no competition. And they basically can price whatever they want. And these airlines, they don't fluctuate. They stay at this price and there's no competition. So, unlike some of these bigger airports that fluctuate on a daily or weekly basis and they have to remain competitive because there's so many airlines to choose from, that's not the case at a lot of these smaller ones. Whereas Manchester's kind of like a middle ground between the two. They're not huge, but they still have enough competition here where the prices can be competitive. There's been situations where I've flown out of Manchester because it just made more, financial sense than going to Boston. So take a look here. You have American Airlines, nonstop flights to Charlotte, Philadelphia, Washington, and Chicago. Avelo, which is the new addition here. They're just going to start with that nonstop flight to Raleigh. You have Southwest, nonstop flights to Baltimore, Chicago, Orlando, and Tampa. So you have a little bit of Florida there. Spirit, they pretty much focus on Florida here. Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, Fort Myers, Tampa, and they also have Myrtle Beach too. And as you can see, they're seasonal. So like a lot of different states here, New England gets very cold in the wintertime, especially with retirees. They like to travel to these Sunbelt states and spend their winters there. So the demand for flights to like Florida, Arizona definitely picks up in the winter months here in New England. Whereas in the summertime, it's so hot in those Sunbelt states that people end up just staying in New Hampshire or any of these New England states because the summers are not too bad. It can be humid, but they really aren't going to compare to an area like Florida. And then the last one would be United. Here you see nonstop to Newark. Now I will say with United, if you prefer that airline, you're going to have a better selection out of Boston. And I know there's certain people that they like to fly with one particular airline, whether it's because of a point system or they enjoy their service. I'm not really partial to one airline, but I do like flying with American. I've always had pretty good experience with them. So let's take a look here. As I mentioned before, what would be another alternative? So we're going to go back to the map for a second. And as you can see in this right-hand corner, North Londonderry, which is right off of 93. And this is exit 5, which doesn't, it's not going to make a huge deal. I just wanted you to know where it is. And then you'll see right over here, you have Boston Express, which is just off of the highway. Now, if I go to their website, Boston Express, and you're also going to see in the top tab, Concord Coach, Dartmouth Coach, and then Boston Express. I think they're all just under one parent company here, so they all function under the same ownership. It's just that they offer different services. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth with Concord or Dartmouth, but if we look on the map, you'll see where Dartmouth is. It's way up here next to the Vermont border, right by Lebanon. It's where Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center is. And then obviously Concord, just to the north of Manchester. Now the thing with some of these bus stations is that there's not as many options to choose from. Whereas when you get down into Londonderry, Salem, there's also Nashua, there's a lot more to choose from, which makes it, a little bit more easy to find something that you need. As far as if you're flying in really, really early morning or really late at night, you have more options at these destinations. So what we're going to do, just for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to plug in a date here. We already have, looks like it's already preset at March 25th. So it's about a week from today. And just to show you what I was saying previously, we'll put in Manchester and then we're going to go to Boston Logan. Now, when we search this, there's not going to be very many options, maybe just one. So as you can see, one option leaves at 8:10 a.m., arrives at Boston Logan at 9:50. Now, it's an hour and 40-minute ride, but it goes from Manchester to North Londonderry to Salem to Boston South Station and then Boston Logan. Now, you're not getting off the bus at these stops. You're just going to be staying on and they're going to be picking up more people at each of these stops and dropping some people off. Now, as you see the price, $19 one way. It's really, really hard to beat that. That's a great price. Not to mention, now this is a case at the Salem one, North Londonderry, but I personally use the North Londonderry location. You can park your car there. There's a long-term and a short-term lot for free. So if you're leaving at either of these airports, I guess technically you could do the same thing if you're flying out of Manchester if you wanted to, but it's really meant for flying out of Boston. So it's just tough to beat that. It's a great service they have there. And now I'm going to show you North Londonderry. So North Londonderry, exit 5, and we'll plug in Boston Logan once again. And then just so that it's the same as the previous example, we'll do the 25th. And we'll take a look at how many options they have here. And you're going to see that they have way more. Starting at 3:45 a.m., same price, all the way down to 8 p.m. So all these different options here. And now you're going to see 55 minutes here early morning just because there's not as much traffic. And then you're going to see some that are hour 20, hour 25, hour. It's between an hour and an hour 20. The hour, so you can see right here, 7:30 to 8:30, That's because it's nonstop. You're going from North Londonderry straight to Boston Logan. Whereas with one of these hour 21s here, you're stopping North Londonderry, you're starting there, stopping in Salem, then to Boston South Station, and then to Boston Logan. And what's really nice about this is that they actually will drop you off right at your specific terminal too. So if you're flying out with Southwest, you're flying with American, whatever it might be, they're going to drop you off right at that terminal. So it's going to make it really, really convenient for you. Okay, so let's go to the map and I will show you what that looks like as far as, where you'd be starting and where you'd be going. So as I showed you before, all right, so North Londonderry right here. So you'd start there, you'd get on 93, the bus can travel down, continuing south here, and then once we get into Salem, now I don't know if it's going to show up here. I can't recall if the station is right. I thought the station was right in this location here, but it might be further down. So either way, it's off of the highway here in this area, or it's over here, one of the two. But there's the Salem stop, and then you would continue going. And then once you get into Boston, I'm not going to actually pinpoint South Station, but you would stop at South Station down here, and then you have Boston Logan right here on the water, as you can see. Now, Boston Logan's going to be the same situation here. We can even go to their website once again, and let's see if we can find their parking situation. Let's see if I can find this here. All right, so let's take a look at the parking. Looks like it's a $25 per day for parking at Boston Logan. So it's even more expensive than Manchester, which it makes it even more appealing to take the bus, seeing as it costs so much money. Now let's take a look at the actual airlines that fly in and out of Boston. And as you can see, this is going to be a long list. I'm not going to read off each one on here, but I am going to scroll through them so you can see. And there are going to be similar ones here, as you saw at Manchester, but they're going to offer a lot more flights than Manchester. So you're going to have a lot of international here. You're going to have nonstop to the West Coast. It's going to be a lot more desirable if you're looking for something that is going to be priced more competitively, and it's going to get you there quicker. As you can see, there's a lot to choose from. You have some budget airlines in here, and then you have a lot of the larger airlines. And as I mentioned before, United, you see there's a lot more that they offer here than at Manchester. So a lot to choose from there. Now, the final thing we'll take a look at, now if the bus wasn't your thing, even though it is a really good option, I've never had a bad experience with it. It's always, it's nice and relaxed. It's comfortable. You can sit back, read a book, take a nap, whatever you want to do. The other option, if you want to take a taxi or an Uber. Now, we're going to go to Uber's pricing tool. I know this can fluctuate depending on the day, the time of the day, and if it's a weekend or a weekday. But what we're going to do for the purpose of this example, we'll put in Manchester, Boston Regional, and then we're going to actually plug in Boston Logan here, and we'll see what the price would be to take an Uber from those two airports. Okay, so as you can see, starting at $100, going all the way up to, on the high end, about $162. So that's quite a big difference if you're paying $19 for the bus plus free parking, which obviously you wouldn't have to deal with the parking if you're taking the Uber either. Now, you might say, well, I don't live in Manchester, and maybe I live in Salem, which is right on the border. Now, Salem will plug in. I'm going to try to plug in the actual bus station in Salem here. Okay, so this is the Salem bus station now for the Boston Express, as I was mentioning before. Now, even from that station to Boston Logan, you're looking at $70 on the low end and up to $111 on the high end. So even that is a huge difference, which reiterates my point that if you're going to go the Uber or the taxi route, you're probably just going to be better off renting a car. And personally, I like the app Turo. I've always had a good experience with that. Whether you rented from the airport and then drove up to New Hampshire, or you took the bus up to New Hampshire and then rented in New Hampshire, whatever way you chose to do it would probably make more sense than just paying for a taxi or an Uber to get to and from the airport. I know that a taxi can be upwards of $100 at least. Now, the one situation where it might make more sense is if you're staying in New Hampshire and you were going to be flying out of Boston, Manchester Boston Regional Airport. In that situation, you're not gonna deal with the bus most likely. So whether you're renting a car, dropping the car back off, you're probably gonna take an Uber in that situation, but it's gonna be much less expensive. So it wouldn't be as big of a deal if you were doing that. But this is more so if you're going, one of the airports. If you're coming from Boston Logan up to New Hampshire, you're going from New Hampshire down to Boston Logan. So that basically wraps it up, guys. I just wanted to do this quick video, give you a brief overview so you know some of the ways to get around in the state and try to save a little bit of money next time you're planning a trip to New Hampshire. But I hope you enjoyed that one. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.